Let's talk anime. Hello and welcome to Brandon's Discuss Anime, the Reckless Amoeba podcast. I am your host, Brandon Horvath, and with me are my friends, Brandon Thalinger.
Welcome to the podcast, y'all.
And Ryan Stokiel.
Yo, what I do?
Yep. And okay, how would you like to win a lot of money, guys?
I'm cautious about this because there's always a catch.
The catch
whose dick
is
do we gotta suck?
the world of mathematics.
I don't like where this is going.
Because if you can find the world's largest prime number, you can win a hefty chunk of money. I believe it's around $150,000.
Oh wow!
And as of February 2018, a new largest prime number was found. Are you ready for it?
A new prime number?
Yes, the largest known prime number was recently discovered. It is 2 to the power of 77,232,917 minus 1. And that was proven to be prime. It has over 23.2 million digits.
I mean, I feel like if you have a big enough computer, you can find another one pretty quickly.
I
feel like this seems so stupid. What does it matter?
I don't get how we can't just make up prime numbers. Like, they're just numbers. Yeah.
Like,
What do you mean
I'll
another
eventually
prime
find another one if I count long enough.
Yeah, that's what I mean. How long did it take him to find it?
I think it's been 2 years.
The
1 or 2
fuck are
years.
they doing?
1 or 2 years since the last one was. 2017 was the last one discovered, and that was a little bit smaller.
Again, this seems like an extremely asinine thing to be looking for. Like, we could be putting this money towards something far better. But no, we're going to give it to this guy who found a prime number that nobody cares about.
Yeah, it was actually found last year, the 23 million digit one.
I have, speaking of numbers,
Yes.
I just watched, this new show on Netflix called Ugly Delicious with David Chang.
Is the idea that it's ugly-looking food, but it tastes amazing?
That's what I thought going into it, but no.
Really?
Huh.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's like more about culture and the food. Like he basically picks one type of food, like pizza or tacos, and like the whole episode's about that. And he goes to like all different cultures of how they eat their pizza and stuff. But he actually went to Domino's and he asked the store manager, like, how many combinations are there of pizzas that just Domino's does, or that is possible. Fucking 32 million.
Oh my God.
I mean, technically, are we just going with like classic toppings in this case, or are we like talking like the exotic stuff too?
Well, whatever, like just for Domino's, that is.
Of
Okay.
America.
Just out of their toppings.
Domino's of America.
Yeah.
I mean, this brings up a good point, actually, since we're talking about pizza. Let me bring this up then, because apparently, and I haven't watched this myself, apparently on Good Mythical Morning, they had a whole pizza taste, like a blind taste testing thing, and it's like, well, the toppings are what makes the pizza. Do you guys think that's the case, or is it actually including, like, the dough, the cheese, and the tomato sauce?
All
Do you think-
also.
Do you think that's what makes it, or do you think it's actually the toppings that make the pizza?
The toppings will always be taste pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter how you cook it, unless it's like on a grill or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the main ingredients is what matters.
What about you, Brandon?
I guess it depends, because if you consider, like, the cheese part of the topping, even though cheese is standard on all pizza.
I do not consider it part of the topping. I consider the main body of the pizza being the dough, the tomato sauce, and the cheese.
Mm.
The chassis of the pizza.
I think it's chassis.
It's chassis.
Chassis?
Yes. That's how it's pronounced.
It's kind of like Cassie, but with a ch.
But anyway, your opinion on this.
That's a good point to make, because I do think the toppings make the pizza, but like Ryan says, like, you can get pepperoni from anywhere and put it on a pizza, and it's still possibly the same pepperoni.
My question is more along the lines of, like, can you taste the difference if you have a topping or don't have a topping? Right? Like, if you had a mushroom pizza from one place and a mushroom pizza from another, could you tell the difference just based on those mushrooms and not the pizza itself?
Depends on the chain, I guess.
Or would it be the difference between the main part of the pizza?
Now, if we're talking about a California Pizza Kitchen mushroom pizza, which has like 5 or 6 kinds of mushrooms on it, then I could tell.
Wow.
Yes, but you're pulling out, like, the radical part of this equation.
But, do they have this, like, in the frozen section or something?
It was like 10 years ago when my sister Rachel was at college, and we stopped by some mall on the way home. I think it may have been...
Oh, damn it.
Yeah,
and
we stopped by California Pizza Kitchen.
I thought there was, like, at least a frozen pie. Because there's none near us, right?
Not as far as I'm aware.
King of Prussia Mall. That's where I went.
Wow.
That's where I went.
I thought that was like a West Coast, like South. Because I know there's like some in Florida that I've seen.
Yeah, like for me, right, I could tell you probably the difference kind of like based on the pizza sauce. Like if we're just going to be talking about fast food pizza in general, not going to be going to like actual pizzerias, I can tell you immediately what a Papa John's pizza is because it has like a sweeter tomato sauce. Whereas if I go to a Domino's, it's like, no, that's definitely different. I can tell you the difference right away.
Yeah, it's like a little more like tart. Yeah.
Like you also like you get. There's also like the crust too. Like the crust can have its own differences.
Yeah.
Where like you bite into it, is it like a limp crust? Is it more stiffer? Is it thinner or thicker?
And then you got Pizza Hut, which tastes like shit after 5 minutes of like.
Oh, whoa! Don't you go dissing Pizza Hut.
I don't like Pizza Hut. Least favorite.
And I think
honestly, that goes to Domino's for me. I really dislike Domino's.
Dude, yeah, I guess that's how it is. Like, people who don't like Domino's like Pizza Hut and vice versa.
Honestly, my favorite fast food chain as far as pizza goes would then have to be, it would be Papa John's, I think, as far as fast food pizza goes.
Papa bless.
And I think Little Caesars adds, I heard Munster to their cheese blend.
Yeah.
It's unique.
Yeah, dude. That Little Caesars is my favorite.
I don't know. I've not heard good things about Little Caesars.
They're $5 pizzas, and they're not bad for $5 pizzas. Except the heartburn you get.
Can you tolerate the heartburn?
Yes.
Is it worth it?
Also, that's from eating, like, 2 pizzas in a sitting. So don't do that. I guess that would do it.
All that tomato sauce.
Yeah.
So, okay. Little Caesars was going to sponsor us. You said they gave you heartburn. They're like, nope. And now they're back to maybe sponsoring us again. Please sponsor us, Little Caesars. Please sponsor us.
Hashtag totally not sponsored whatsoever.
Yeah.
Hashtag never sponsored. We're doomed. This is never happening. Thanks, Orion. It's all your fault.
It's all good, man. We'll get a pizza sponsor.
Either that or Arby's.
Dumpster
Arby's.
Pizza down the road. We'll sponsor
maybe we could pay Arby's to sponsor us. Is that how that works anyway? We'll just be like, can we just say you sponsor us if we give you money? And then we can just have people join a mailing list where they get sent Arby's coupons,
Oh, Jesus.
but we don't make any money from the sponsorship.
Why are we doing it then? Look, all right, just give us free sandwiches for life. That's
Yeah,
all I'm asking.
They're like,
all right,
you
I'll
get
take
one
that.
free sandwich a month, which isn't that bad.
Yeah.
No. One free sandwich a week. Come on, we gotta have some standards.
I think I go to Arby's like once a month.
Oh, God. All right, so did anything else happen to you guys this week?
No.
You railed the podcast.
When do we don't derail the podcast?
I don't know. Maybe when you have another...
Before it even started. I'm trying to think of what the hell I did. Probably nothing important if I can't remember. So that's cool. Oh, I ordered shoes on Amazon.
You ordered shoes.
Yes. I got some Nike Nike
Are we sponsored
Air
by Nike now? Is that what's happening?
Nike Air Force Ones.
Careful you don't step on the president. Although I'm not sure if many people would really care at this point. Who knows? You might have some orange on your foot when you pull it out of there.
Sick political burn. Okay.
Alright, so if nobody else has anything to say, then I'm just gonna bring this up because, I don't know, maybe this will be a mini rant view, like in the middle of this, maybe not. I don't know if I'm actually, like, willing to throw a rant view for this movie, but I watched The Greatest Showman, which is a movie about the life of P.T. Barnum.
You were telling me about it.
It's also a musical, so, plenty of musical numbers. I think there were I want to say 8 or 10 total in the movie?
Wow.
It's only about an hour and 45-minute runtime. I'll say this outright. I enjoyed this movie, okay? I did enjoy this movie. It has very, very good choreography and musical numbers. The plot, unfortunately, is very generic.
Wait. Is Hugh Jackman in the movie?
Are you really going to make that joke?
Maybe.
Don't make that joke. It's terrible.
I didn't know that's what that movie was about.
That's exactly what it's about. So it's actually really interesting in that, like I said, the plot itself is kind of mundane. It's the whole, oh man, guy comes from nothing. Guy gets success. Guy forgets why he wanted success to begin with. Guy suddenly realizes why he wanted success again. Rediscovers who he is and goes back to where he wanted to be.
The end.
Yeah, pretty much. Which is not in any way like history. They kind of portray him as hey, I want to have this thing like a circus or whatnot from a really young age, which was never the case. In fact, Barnum only got into the circus when he was 60, whereas in this he's mid-20s. There's a point where he sponsors a tour, I believe, by Jenny Lind, who was this really big opera singer in Europe at the time, and has her come over to America, right? And in the movie, apparently, there's this love interest thing that goes on between her and Barnum, which, again, never existed in reality. In fact, Jenny Lind was extremely pious and very religious and donated literally all of the money she made to charity.
What?
Huh.
There was never any scandal which is shown in the movie. In fact, what is it? In the movie, she ends her tour with Barnum because he didn't return her feelings. In reality, she ended her tour with Barnum. Well, with Barnum, technically. She finished this tour on her own under new management. But she cut it off with Barnum because she didn't like the way Barnum was marketing her. How ruthlessly he was doing it.
Bearded lady?
She was not. Barnum, Jenny Lind is actually a famous opera singer from, I want to say Switzerland. But yeah. There are dramatic differences in the movie to history. For instance, General Tom Thumb, who was supposed to be the smallest general or something like that in the world, right?
Uh-huh.
In the movie, Barnum finds him at 22 years old, and he's a short man. In reality, Tom Thumb was only a 4-year-old kid who Barnum then turned from 5 years old to drinking alcohol to a 7-year-old who was smoking for people.
Oh.
What?
Oh, you want to make it worse? I can make it worse.
Maybe.
You want to know? You want to know how he got his start in the entertainment industry? In reality, he leased a person.
He what?
He leased a person.
How do you do that legally?
Because at the time, it was only just recently that slavery had been outlawed in the North, more or less. So he got around the anti-slavery laws by leasing a person. Now, I don't know, like, how the agreement worked, because it doesn't really go into detail from my research did. He apparently leased this, for the most part, paralyzed black woman and claimed she was the nurse of George Washington, and she was like 160 years old. And then when she died, he sold tickets to her autopsy to prove whether or not she had lied to even him, or whether she was in fact 160 years old. Shocker, autopsy came back, she was only actually 80.
Huh.
But he sold tickets to it after she died. Now, I don't know if her family agreed to all of this. I don't know if she was able to agree to it herself. I don't know the litigations and the specifics of this. Only that I know this is what happened. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there that completely changes based on what the movie does. The movie itself is fine if you're willing to separate it from history and realize that it's not what happened. And even the movie kind of gets around that by not saying it was based on a true story, but inspired by one.
The word inspired.
Oh yeah, the marketing for the movie in that regard is pretty good in the way it tries to get around that idea. Yeah, I would say if you want to go see the movie, go see the movie. It's worth it just for the musical numbers. If it's still in theaters, go catch it.
So, last week we did Fullmetal Alchemist 03, and we said we would be doing Brotherhood this week. That's today's episode, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Oh, god damn it, in here I thought we were doing something different. Oh.
I really haven't seen much, if any, of Brotherhood. I was more into the 03 version, so...
Because you're a pansy. Come on, man.
So you're
Watch
saying,
the good one.
So you're saying Brotherhood is far superior to 03?
I don't take a side on this, but I will say Brotherhood is darker.
Oh.
Brotherhood has a darker turn to it.
Oh.
And a much more, I would say, interesting ending, too. Because, like, the ending of 03 involved, like, a human just wanting more Philosopher's Stones more, for the most part.
So there is no dimensional time travel?
God, no.
Okay.
I mean, not time travel. Maybe you could consider it dimensional, because we still have that whole, like, door of truth or whatever exists. And technically we don't exactly know what's on the other side of that.
Okay.
So how do we want to start this? Do we want to start with, like, what the differences are, or...
Yeah, because I was about to ask. I don't know if I have watched Brotherhood or not.
Well, other than the fact that we have, like, a couple of name changes based on, like, some of the homunculi.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Sloth in this one is no longer the reincarnation, quote-unquote, of Ed and Al's mom. It's now, like, this really buff version of what is essentially, I'm going to say, Envy.
Okay.
That's just really lazy and doesn't like doing anything.
So they're more symbolic of their names now.
Yes.
Okay.
Another one is that instead of having just a really old human who wants more Philosopher's Stones, we have Father. And no, I'm not talking KND's father. It's far more
that,
interesting.
Guy who's always on fire.
Yes. The man who's constantly on fire and is just a black silhouette. It's not him. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry to disappoint. And it also brings up the history of Ed and Al's father, Hohenheim, which is even more interesting. So, what we learn in this, all right, and for anyone who hasn't seen it, go watch it, because I'm jumping into spoilers here.
As we normally do.
As we normally do, but
Right
fair warning. Fair warning. All right, so here's what we essentially know. We've got Hohenheim way back in the past. Hohenheim is essentially immortal, I'm going to say, as far as, like, aging is concerned. We find him as, like, I'm going to say, like, a 16-year-old kid who then discovers this thing in a jar. It's like some black amorphous shape. It's got like eyes and a mouth, and that's about it. It ends up making a deal at some point with Hohenheim, and what ends up happening is not what Hohenheim thought. While the thing tricks him into getting immortality and getting him power, it does so by sacrificing the entirety of his city to create Philosopher's Stones.
Oh.
And in doing so, this thing gets a copy of Hohenheim's body. So now we technically have Father and Hohenheim, who are essentially twins.
Is one evil?
It depends on your definition of evil. In terms of the story, he's evil. And what he does is evil, but he has less emotional attachment than a human would.
Okay.
So he's willing to, like, throw things away.
So he's not an anti-villain sort of evil. He's more of a classic villain type of evil?
It's hard to say, because in the case of Father, he's kind of more like the ends justify the means kind of idea, like to the extreme. What was it? At one point, like at some point, I don't know exactly when this happens, because I don't remember exactly, but at some point during the story, he decides he wants to be God or like God. I think it was after like reading scriptures or hearing scriptures of humans' religions. And in doing so, he realizes that he needs to throw away emotions, right? This is where the 7 deadly sins come in. He needs to be sinless to be a god. He tears off parts of himself, and those parts become the homunculi.
Even the female ones.
Even the female ones. So, we didn't talk about it much in the first one, but there was another country alongside Amestris which was sacrificed to make Philosopher's Stones, right? During a big war before the series starts.
I kind of remember that.
We have a character called Scar that's from there who doesn't really get as much screenplay in 03 that he does here.
Okay. I remember Scar.
Yeah, Scar in this has a much bigger part to play. And that he's in both of them, he's the last survivor of that country.
Does he still kill Mufasa?
Yes. Although he has a much more religious way of looking at it, too. Or it's like the suffering and all that. I'll end you before, you suffer before you suffer anymore.
Okay.
But yes, the sins come directly as part of Father ripping off parts of himself. Scar is a person who comes from a country that was sacrificed to create Philosopher's Stones, which is the same case here. However, Scar has part of the secret to undo that, more or less. The alchemy he has is kind of like the opposite of it. What they end up doing in that country was creating an entire transmutation circle all around the entire country and transmuting them into a Philosopher's Stone. I forget. No, I do remember. Scar survived because his body was etched with like tattoos, I believe, of the alchemic symbols and stuff to kind of counteract it. Because someone in there managed to realize what was going on, but didn't have time to stop it. So that I believe was Scar's brother, and Scar then got the tattoos to try and either replicate or to keep himself alive. I don't remember if he was either out of the country or if he had the tattoos at the time.
And you said this is more based on the manga than the original.
This is far closer to the manga.
About when is the breaking point?
Right about the time Ed and Al discover what the Philosopher's Stone is.
Okay.
Give or take. Once they realize that it's made of souls.
So is it still lighthearted in the beginning?
It still has lightheartedness throughout, but it takes darker turns. Like, there's a lot more stuff to question. Like, for instance, we also meet up with 2 characters from another country that's kind of like China, I would say. One of which is named Ling, who is in a search for power to save his country. And in the end, ends up absorbing greed.
Oh.
So...
Absorb?
It's a weird way to describe it, but it's the best way I can think of. Like, greed now is, like, in his body, and they seem to switch back and forth between who's controlling it until, like, near the end they come to a understanding and an agreement to work together.
So kind of a fusion dance.
Kind of, except permanent.
So, like...
And it's just Ling's body. It's not Greed's at all, except for the fact that you can use Greed's ability to get, like, hard skin.
Okay.
Wait, so what happened to Greed's body then?
I don't remember exactly. I want to say Greed was dying, and this was a deal that Ling made with him.
Oh, okay.
Like, to help him save his country. In return, he would help Greed to live.
Mm.
And, continue to have greed.
Yeah.
The greed for life in this case. What else was there? There's, what am I thinking of here? There is another, alright, the other character that comes from this China place, which is like a little girl. Who apparently at one point just like imagines Ed to be like this amazing savior of humanity and just like this really handsome guy. Like it's ridiculous with her. Like she's got hilarious stuff. Plus she has like a little baby panda on her shoulder. It's hilarious. But like their country has a different form of alchemy. It's weird. It stems more from like living things in life. As compared to where you're working with the regular alchemy that you see from the regular people of Amestris, and you get to see them working with like inanimate, non-living objects.
But isn't living alchemy frowned down upon?
In Amestris, it is.
Ah.
I don't know. I don't remember the specific reasons why. I think it might just be because it doesn't usually go well. But it's a different version of alchemy over in this China country.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't work quite the same.
No. Living alchemy is where, they take living objects and...
Yeah, like, alter it a bit.
Okay.
Or, like, change something into a living object.
Hold on. So, I never watched this, but I did see a meme where a dude turns a girl into, like, a half dog or some shit.
Yeah, we talked about this last time.
Okay. I didn't quite put those two together.
Like the cow goes moo, the cat goes meow, the dog goes Edward.
Oh, it's so awful.
I never watched that. Or I never actually, I never actually saw that, so.
Yeah, it's an early on episode.
It was like halfway through.
I don't even think that. I think it was like episode 5. It was really early.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess, what the hell did they expect? What are they trying to accomplish?
Well, the guy had actually created a chimera before, and it had garnered him a lot of money, which chimera would be like a talking animal in this case.
Yeah.
Which he used his wife for.
Oh, God.
And this time he was trying to recreate the success. And it got to the point where he's just like, well, screw it, and uses his daughter.
Who's like 7 years old-ish?
Younger, I'd say closer to 5 or 6.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, right. We get into another part of this where we go to a section. We didn't talk about General Armstrong last time. Mr. Muscle-bound, one curl hair, and his sparkles everywhere. So, we find out that he apparently has a sister. And this is my favorite character out of here, Olivia Mira Armstrong. I really like her. Like, she is literally nothing like her brother, because her brother is flamboyant and ridiculous. She is a hard ass. She has no problem just kicking your ass where you stand just to take you down. And I believe because of how harsh she is, she's stationed right up in the north in this wall bordering the northern country, which is called Briggs. So she's stationed up there, and she's there to keep the northern country from invading. Forget if the country's actually called Briggs or if that's just the fort that they're at.
Okay, she does look like a hard ass just from all these pictures I'm seeing.
Oh, trust me, she is. Like, Ed and Al want information, they go up there, and she's like, no, you gotta work for me before I trust you.
Except for this one where she's making a kissy face.
Like I said, there is some lighthearted points, but for the most part, no. I think, if I remember correctly, she was actually, like, not quite disowned? But I think, like, her family, like, either kicked her out of the will or something, so that, you know, the Armstrong we all know and love is the one that's inheriting everything.
Does he at least mention her in passing in 03?
I don't recall. I honestly don't. Because I don't think her character was invented at the time.
Okay.
So I don't think there was ever any introduction in 03 about her. But I do love her character. This is also where we end up meeting Sloth, is up in the Briggs section. And all we know about Sloth at that point is that he's just digging a tunnel. That's all we know. But as far as, like, more differences go, like I said, Father wants to become a god. And now the whole plan is like, well, I need far more power to do that. So he's gonna, you know, convert another country into a bigger Philosopher's Stone. The entire country of Amestris in this one. So the tunnel that Sloth is digging is an underground alchemy circle to transmute the entire country.
That's not good.
Yeah. Supposedly, this is the same process they used in the first country, back in Scar's country, I should say. This is the same process, however, this is on a much bigger scale because Amestris is far larger. What else was there? There gets to be an entire point where they realize that King Bradley, the Führer, is actually a homunculus, and they literally have to march on the capital of the country and take it out. And in fact, his son, quote-unquote son, is also the homunculus Pride, which is also another point to add in there. We have a child homunculus.
Wasn't there
Go on.
Wasn't there a child homunculus in 03?
There was one, and it was the one that supposedly had Ed's arm and leg, I think. No, it was it was Wrath. That's the character from there. Apparently that one was the result of Ednow's teacher, Izumi, trying to revive her son.
Okay.
But it looked like he had a human arm and leg that were from Ed.
Okay.
Just because of, like, scarring around his arm and leg, or where they were attached.
Yeah, I do remember the kid homunculus.
But no, in this one, it's literally King Bradley's son, who looks like he's 7 or 8. 10 at the very most. And he's another one, though, is interesting in regards to that. Like, his power involved him just, like, spreading darkness around him and, like, encasing people in it. It was actually a really weird one, too. I enjoyed it, though. But it comes down to the point where they end up... Oh, right. I should also mention, like, Riza's backstory in this, because as far as I'm aware, she's just a generic soldier with a good eye in 03. And this one, apparently, if you remember Roy Mustang, the Flame Alchemist, right? His entire alchemy comes from her father's research, which he tattooed onto her back. And because she trusted Mustang enough, and I forget if it was because I forget if her father actually knew Roy or not. But anyway, point is, they basically taught him the flame alchemy. The whole snapping and everything and flame appearing and all that, based on what was on Riza's back. I want to say he rediscovered it, so I don't think he knew her father. But he got that straight from her, and we have a whole, like, backstory section in there about how he learned that and how he gained her trust and all this stuff. So there's that. She has a much more interesting story. We have, oh, that's right, too. Ling actually has a bodyguard that comes with him, who's, like, a female ninja assassin, which is pretty cool.
Is she more competent than Speed of Sound Sonic?
Yes. Granted, like, she's still human, so when she starts trying to go up against the homunculi, it doesn't go too well.
Okay.
But it's kind of her that I think that brings Ling back into control of himself. What else was there? There was... I think the only thing I can think of is just going straight to the end, which is where like they come down to the final fight with Father.
Just
where
hold
they
on
end
a
up.
second. I kind of forgot how cute Riza is. I'm just looking at pictures of her, and she is kind of cute. I remember really liking Winry, but yeah.
Also a tsundere.
Wait. Really?
Yes. Probably more than Winry, I would say.
Okay, this is completely unintentional because it's been so long since I've seen it, and I'm just judging by looks alone.
I was about to ask. I'm like, is that Jesus.
But but just by looks alone.
Do we need to have like a technical difficulties moment as you have a mental breakdown again?
But just by looks alone, I don't remember the character that much. What?
I think you're just losing it now.
Continue.
Alright, so I think the only thing left to really talk about that I can remember is the final showdown with Father.
Mm-hmm.
In which they piece together, I believe, through the Chinese alchemy, the alchemy that Ed knows, and the alchemy from Scar's tattoos and all that other stuff. They piece together a way to counter Father's existence, essentially. Also, at this point, I think Father also takes away their alchemy abilities.
Wait, how?
The man has all this power, all right? I don't remember how, but he takes away Ed's alchemy.
But isn't, and I may be getting this totally wrong, but isn't alchemy sort of like mana-based?
I don't know. Like, because we have O3 and we have the manga, I don't really know specifically, like, where the ability to do so comes from.
So Father untapped all their lands.
I mean, if you want to start talking Magic the Gathering, fine. I don't know how many people are going to get it.
I thought Orion would think that was
I barely
there.
get it.
Yeah, that was mostly for Orion.
Enjoy, Orion. Enjoy.
I'm enjoying it.
But yeah, we get Hohenheim who comes back into the story, and I believe Hohenheim, yeah, he dies at the end after he finally exhausts that Philosopher's Stone that is inside of him. Because the power that, from the original town that Hohenheim comes from, they literally split the power in two, so that Father got half and Hohenheim got half, right? And while Father was out doing his thing, Hohenheim started looking inside and started learning all the names of the souls inside of that half of the Philosopher's Stone that he has. Like, he started understanding who they were. And in doing so, he then gets, I guess technically he gets a little more power, because there was an uneven split. So Father has more power than Hohenheim would have normally. I believe in understanding the souls inside, he was able to garner a stronger power than what Father had. But using Hohenheim's abilities, he was able to fight back using that alchemy that Ed, Al, Scar, Roy, Ling, and the others found by combining it. And managed to take him down. It gets interesting, too, because we find that little black amorphous blob that Father started off as at the very end of the series, talking to what was essentially God at the very end, which is another interesting little aspect where it's like, what did you think you would achieve by doing this? You wanted godhood. And I forget the exact dialogue, but it was a really interesting thing to see. Because God is essentially just like the shining ball with a grin on its face.
Mm-hmm.
But,
that's an interesting interpretation of God.
I'm assuming it's one of many.
Sounds like something Radical Edward would do from Cowboy Bebop.
Well, so here's what we get, right? You remember how that gateway that we saw, like, that's in Fullmetal 03?
Oh, yeah.
where like Ed saw it and did all this other stuff, right?
And that's how he got to Germany?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the gateway between the two worlds. In FMA Brotherhood, that's not the case. And here, it's a gate to knowledge, a gate to truth. And in order to get his limbs and Al's body back, Ed sacrifices the truth that he learned within there. And that includes his ability to use alchemy.
Oh.
Like, Fatherhood only cut it off temporarily, I believe. He sacrifices it permanently to bring back Al's body and his arm and leg.
But if you could take it away, you could relearn it.
Okay, no, here's actually a good way of putting it. It says, those who are capable of performing alchemy have their own gate. So there's a gate within everybody who can perform alchemy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if the gate should be removed, in this case by sacrificing it to the truth, they will no longer be able to perform alchemy.
Oh.
So Ed essentially gives up his power of alchemy in order to gain back what he lost.
Okay. So there's I'm just going to use, like, weird terms here. There's a little magical creature inside everyone called a gate, and whether or not they can tap into the gate allows them to perform alchemy?
Yes, that seems to be the case.
Okay.
Or at least the general interpretation.
Okay. And I don't know why I said magical little creature. Just like Desert Walrus, it was the first thing that popped into my mind.
Actually, here we go. The gate is the largest major change in the series. In FMA Brotherhood and the manga, the gate is the source of all alchemy and also seems to be a source of infinite knowledge. The gate is also guarded by a being commonly referred to as Truth, and who is responsible for taking the required tolls for alchemists who perform human transmutation. Those who are capable of performing alchemy have their own gate, and if that gate should be removed, by sacrificing it to the truth, they will no longer be able to perform alchemy. All right, so that's the main difference there, is that, like, everybody's got a gate. The truth is the guardian to that gate. If somebody is to perform something that is horribly morbid and wrong, the truth takes something as a toll for it. In Al's case, his body. In Ed's case, his arm and leg.
Okay.
So while they retain their knowledge, I guess, I believe Ed actually in the end ended up becoming like I guess more of like a scientist than an alchemist, since he can no longer perform it himself.
Okay.
So he was doing research. Well, I think Al still has the ability to do so, though.
So science still exists, as we determined, but science is on the back burner while alchemy and stuff is going forward.
Yeah, because I believe, like, muzzleloader pistols still exist in this world. So, like, there's some, but for the most part, it's still, like, you have cutlasses, you still have, like, melee weaponry, and you still have alchemy as a main source.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you have the Flame Alchemist who's just literally like, I'm a flamethrower everything.
Let me snap multiple times.
Exactly.
I forget, could he manipulate fire too?
In what ways?
Like, if he had a lighter, could he, like, blow it around and...
That's actually what he did at one point, right? Because at the end, he lost the gloves that allowed him to, like, do the whole snapping motion.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up having to use a lighter and a transmutation circle to try and recreate it.
In
fact, I think he actually carved it on the back of his hand at one point and used a lighter. Because if I remember right, the gloves were made of a specific material to allow a spark to be created.
Okay.
And the alchemy allowed him to, like, manipulate it to a degree.
Okay.
So I believe he carved it on the back of his hand to use it, and then used a lighter to have his flame.
Okay. Because I remember vague parts of 03, but not that much.
Like, I think he can control it in a general sense, like you would with a flamethrower, but it's not like you can make shapes and shit out of the fire.
Okay, I just meant, could he, like, push the flame and allow it to grow? Kind of like a flamethrower.
I would say yes, like direction and growth and stuff, but he can't create it himself. He needs something else. Hence why the gloves for the spark. Mm-hmm. Hence why the lighter at the end. Mm-hmm. He still needs a fire source from somewhere or a spark to get it going.
And bouncing back to Hawkeye for a moment, since he was one of the major ones, what was her alchemy expertise?
she didn't have any. She was just a really good shot, and her father knew how to make that flame alchemy. But she, as far as I'm aware, could not perform it herself.
Okay.
So instead of losing that knowledge, he passed it on in the form of a tattoo on her back.
Mm.
And I believe, like, it wasn't like she was, distant from her father. She was very close. From what I remember, he told her only to trust, like, the most, like, only to give out that secret to someone who was trustworthy of it. And I forget exactly, again, the terms of it. But it basically just, like, you need to find someone who can learn this and to use it the correct way. Actually, it was interesting, too, because if I remember right, it ended up coming down to, like, Ling/Greed versus Pride at the end. Or, goddammit, I never remember. Is it Pride or Wrath? King Bradley is what I should say. Because that's the name he goes by for the most part. The Fuhrer.
Mein Führer.
He's Wrath. All right, yeah, he's Wrath in Brotherhood.
Okay.
This mixing around of names is driving me nuts. So hard to keep them straight. So yeah, Wrath versus like Ling/Greed, which is always an interesting one. But yeah, I can't think of any other real differences between the two.
And this came out in 2008, 9?
I want to say that's about right.
Okay.
Let me just do a quick cursory search to double check my dates. Came out 2009, ended 2010.
Okay.
So almost a full year. A little longer, actually. Because it came out in April, ended in July.
52 episodes?
Yes?
I think FMA 03 had 51, so just about the same length.
26 episodes of season 1, 38 of season 2.
Oh, so closer to...
Probably like 60-ish.
Yeah.
So yeah, right around there. A little longer. Just because there's more going on, I think. But I honestly think this is a very good series. If I am to choose the two, I think I would pick Brotherhood first. But it would only slightly edge out over 03. And that's only because I like the darker plot line better than the way 03 takes it.
Okay.
Maybe anything
I'll
else?
give it a watch.
Anything else we want to bring up then?
Not at this time.
I feel like I've been monologuing this whole time.
Oh, no, that's fine. We can each have our own centered episodes sometimes.
I don't know much about this series, so...
Honestly, if like you barely remember 03 as it is, I would highly suggest going through Brotherhood.
Okay.
If only because it looks better, just because it's come out sooner.
Okay.
Yeah. And besides, I usually lead some of the podcasts. It's fine that you have a leading episode now and then.
But I'm not the main host. I'm not allowed.
I'll allow it.
Good. My plan to finally take over is coming to fruition.
No!
Your downfall is nigh.
No!
I'll elevate Orion to lieutenant.
Yes.
Okay, I guess that wraps up this week. Come back next week for a special guest.
Oh, yes, a special guest. Oh, boy.
Laters.
Bye.
See yous.